way that 5 goes is that each speaker comes up and they wow you for 10 minutes. And then my handy dandy phone will ring when their time is up. We kick them off and the next speaker comes right up. And we try to keep it timely so that you guys get some information, have some interesting dialogue, but that you can get back to work. We know you have a real life. So I'm going to go ahead and read briefly the bios of our amazing speakers today. And I thank you guys for taking your time out of your busy schedule to speak to our lovely guests today. Juli Kumble is the interim CEO for the Women's Fund of Western Massachusetts, where she also directs a leadership training program for women called the Leadership Institute for Political and Public Impact. Juli's career has focused on community development, equity, and leadership for women and youth. She also writes and presents on gender issues in politics and professions. In 2013, she was a U.S. State Department Fellow, a recipient of the International Women's Day Award from the Amherst League of Women Voters, and an awardee of the Turkey Lynn Cove Foundation Motivated Women Grant. Mychal Connolly was named one of America's top urban entrepreneurs for his body of work as the co-founder of the online baby gift company, Stinky Cakes. He was also named one of the top 40 under 40 in Massachusetts by Business West magazine. He is the author of the Entrepreneurial and Branding Guide Launch and Standout. And he's also brave because he's only one male out of all of our 5 speakers. We always have one guy because they know stuff too, Mike. Right? Alyssa Burgett currently serves as the Director of Programming at Raising Change, a philanthropic advising and fundraising firm in Northampton, Massachusetts. With a background in the theater arts, Alyssa is an advisor to various arts-oriented groups, including Wham! Theater Company, Feminist.com, and many more organizations working to bring a better future to their communities through arts education, youth leadership, and elevating women's voices. She is also a dedicated activist in the 1 Billion Rising movement, a blogger for Maine Nation, and her hope is to find a way to bring more visibility to the important work of social change artists and activists. Juli Thibault is a marketing and branding professional with a passion for diversity and inclusivity. She believes through understanding our differences, we can collectively breed creativity and innovation in our communities and organizations. Juli serves on the board of directors of the Young Professional Society of Greater Springfield. In addition, she is a member of Bay State Health's Diversity Council and its Northampton Pride Planning Committee. I, again, am Natasha Clark. I have a background in news. I also have a passion for women's topics. I don't like the word issues. And I basically became passionate because when I was a kid, my mother told me that I had to dust and I had to cook because I was a woman, and it really pissed me off because I felt like I can do whatever the hell I want to do. And so I'm excited to kind of create a company where we encourage women to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to stop yapping and we're going to kick it off with Juli Kumble.
Thank you, Natasha. And I know that Natasha loves TED Talks. And can I put this here in case I start to lose my voice? I was thinking about TED Talks, and I was thinking about those cool headphones that they wear. And I think it's somebody telling them what they're supposed to say. They have their lines in there, because how do they remember for 12 minutes? So I am having my cheat sheet, just so you know, but I'm going to tell a story that I hope you find interesting. And it's about women's voices, leadership, and the importance of listening to women's voices. So it was about a year ago, Natasha mentioned this, the funniest thing on my resume, the Turkey Lynn Cove Foundation for Motivated Women. It's a mouthful, but about a year ago I got an email from somebody who said, share this with people you know. I had this wonderful experience, this life-changing experience, where I was chosen to go to Martha's Vineyard for this retreat. And you can work on a project, personal goals, a chapter in your dissertation, a painting, an exhibit, whatever. And all you have to do is apply and see if they accept you. So I thought, I'm motivated. I can do this. So I did the application. I sent it off, and I forgot about it. I tried to forget about it. So, but I talked about leadership and how I needed to develop my own leadership and strategic plan, because See, 4 years ago, I co-developed with Carla Oleska, our former CEO, a program called the Leadership Institute for Political and Public Impact. And yet I hadn't participated in that, so I thought this will be a perfect example. So Lippy, and we call it Lippy. Does anybody know why we call it Lippy? We want women to get Lippy. And so that's the acronym for the Leadership Institute for Political and Public Impact. So that was 4 years ago. Natasha is a graduate. There are several graduates and participants here. And we did that because we know that women, we make up 51% of the population, and yet only 20% of leadership positions in virtually every profession are held by women. And that's true from media to military to marketing to politics, certainly. And we wanted to do something about that. So we went around the counties and we listened really carefully to women talk about their own struggles with becoming a leader and what is the gap, what are the factors. And we listened carefully and we heard some really amazing success stories. So for example, in Pittsfield, there was a group of women who started a group. First of all, they saw that they were having trouble having their voices be heard and be represented in government. And they looked at their city council and saw no women on that city council. So they got together and formed a group called WHEN. We've had enough now. But then they changed it to the more palatable name called Women Helping Empower Neighborhoods. But still, they knew the real meaning. And they did a lot of creative solutions to get women onto the city council. The three main things that they did was they looked around and they asked women to run for office. The second thing they did is they looked around and they asked women to run for office. And the third thing they did was they looked around and they asked women to run for office because we know that women need to be asked a minimum of 3 times to even consider that they could be possibly a candidate. So they did that. They also did things like helping each other campaign, watching each other's kids while others campaigned, bringing dinner to each other's houses. And what do you think happened in 1 year? How many people got on the city council who are women? 3. It was pretty remarkable. So we wanted to do something like that county-wide, so we started Lippy 4 years ago. And in May, on May 29th, we're having our graduation for our 4th cohort. 140 women have gone through Lippy at this time. And I just want to tell you that, so in the last 4 years, 21 women who have gone through Lippy have run for political office. We've had 5 participate in the Citizens Legislative Council, 3 have attended the Yale Women's Campaign School, 3 have received honorary governor's appointments, and we have an average of 30 to 40% of minority women participating in Lippy. And we're really, really proud about that. People are helping each other's campaigns, getting on boards of directors, and so now we're trying to replicate the kinds of success and creativity around women's leadership that we saw in Pittsfield, for example. So that foundation that I applied to, so I get a call a few months later saying, well, tell us about why you want to be a recipient of this grant. Why do you want to have this retreat? And I said, well, I want to develop my strategic plan. I'm at a crossroads. I just hit a certain age. My youngest child is off to college. This is the time for me to take my own step, whatever that's going to be. And I want to develop Lippy. I really want to have some time to work on what Lippy can be next. And we had a nice interview, and they kind of got it. They thought it was sort of amorphous, this personal strategic plan. And they said, and I also said in the interview, and I'd love to have that opportunity to interact with other women and be inspired, just how we do in Lippy. And the woman said, oh, you don't understand, this is a solo retreat. And I said, solo retreat for a week. Okay. On Martha's Vineyard. I'm like, okay. And we offer food. We have a caterer. Okay, I'm in. So what's not to like? So I did that for a week in December. It overlapped with my birthday, which was pretty cool to have a big birthday there. And I did spend a lot of time thinking about what we can do with Lippy. It's now, in the world of veterinary medicine. I offered the first course on women's leadership in veterinary medicine, which is a female-dominated profession. and writing papers and going to conferences and things like this, and in that domain, and it's growing and growing. So on that retreat, I was making progress on Lippy, but not really on that personal strategic plan. And I'm walking along the beach one day. I took a break. I did take some breaks. And I get a phone call from Carla Olesker, our CEO, who said, I want to tell you that I'm accepting this other job. So after 8 years of working together, I'm moving on. And that was sad, but it was also great. I was really happy for her that she was able to take this next step. And I found myself saying, this comes back to women's voices, well, I'd like to be considered for interim CEO. And usually I like my inner voice to sort of check in with me first before but it didn't that time. So the next day, on my birthday, I get a call saying, yes, the board would love you to be interim CEO. And then did I say that out loud? I didn't say that out loud. And that's what I've been doing. And I think it's been an amazing opportunity to do that. But I also think that, leadership is about knowing what's right for you. And what I've decided is that I am glad that I took that wrong, that I took that next step, but I think leadership is really listening to the voice and knowing that it's not always about a wrong, it's about a path. Even if you don't know what that path is, even if there are, unknown curves, sometimes the paths are like labyrinths and your back is to where you think you're going, but you're going to get there. And so I think it took more courage to decide that I'm not going to be a permanent CEO. I don't want to do that. I want to do Lippy. I want to keep taking it to the next level. And that's what we do at Lippy. We help women find their voices, find their confidence, and find their skills. And that's it. Oh, 2 minutes.
Oh, wow. Wow.
But that's okay. Short and sweet. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
And next up we have Mychal Connolly.
How are you doing this afternoon?
Good.
Good stuff. So before I start, I just got to put a disclaimer out there. If you walk by me today and my hair smells really good, my wife left her expensive wind shampoo in the shower. And I decided to use it. Yo, nice and gingery. That's what you smell. But before I tell you where I'm going, I have to tell you where I started. So I have to tell you how I fell in love with entrepreneurship. And then everything else will make a whole lot more sense. So when I was about 5 years old, I was with my stepfather who had a pest control business. And I would go with him after school, that window between 3 and 5 before my mom got out of work. And I was always very observant. Now, if you know me, and you know I have 2 sons, my oldest son is exactly like me. So he will sit down and analyze everything, and he'll give you the most intelligent answer to any question. So I was kind of like that. I think he's smarter than me. But I started noticing that the wealthier people and the poor people who both had bugs had something that was...
Bugs don't discriminate.
Right. They had something that was quite different. When we went to the poorer homes, on the coffee tables, there was normally like entertainment magazines and, just junk stuff. And they would be, if they were home, they were watching just like junk TV. And at the wealthier people's homes, they always had business stuff like Entrepreneurial magazine and Inc. magazine and those kind of things. And they would always be watching the TV show with the ticker. Now, I made a conscious decision at 5 to do exactly what the wealthy people did. Like, that was the only decision I had. That was my first business decision. So I started asking them, well, can I have these magazines? And they would give me the old copies. Oh, sure, a kid wants to read, I'll take it. And I would read the magazines, and I would go home and watch a TV show with the ticker. Had no idea what these people were talking about. but I knew that's what the wealthy people were doing. So I fell in love with entrepreneurship through reading, and most of the businesses that I fell in love with were simple ones. Mike Hirrich with Yankee Candle, John Sortino with Vermont Teddy Bear, Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream, because I got that. I was like, oh, this is cool. So I kind of fell in love with entrepreneurship. Went away, didn't think anything about it. So at the age 9, my family was building a brand new home, so we ended up staying with my grandmother. And while we were there, my grandmother, she was a sweet, she loved sweet tooth. So I grew up in the Bahamas. I got to put that in there too. So my grandmother would fly over to Florida and buy candies from Costco and BJ's, all the good stuff, and she would come back with what I thought was just loads and loads of candy. So me being the kind guy that I was, and still am, I shouldn't say was, I would take the candy to school and just give it away. It's like, I have all this candy, whatever, just give it away. And then this is why I say the kind guy that I was. I got tired of kids asking me for candy. They were like, Mike, you got candy, you got candy. And I made my first accidental business decision. My first concept was to read. My first accidental one was to say, you know what, I sell it now. And fortunately for me, the first few kids said, okay, how much? Okay, so on the package it said 50 cents, but right away in my brain I said $1. So, okay, there you go, here's $1. So I started making this money in school selling candy. So now I stopped and I said, wait a minute, I may have something here. So I started telling kids, well, I'm sold out, but I have more at the house. Now the reason I did that was because most kids in my class had little brothers and little sisters. I knew that because they lived in my neighborhood. I would say, come to my house. So instead of making $1, $2, I was making $3, $4, $5. And in the Bahamas it's really hot, so I'd freeze Kool-Aid and I would sell them a drink too. So that's how I started this entrepreneurial thing. But all this was going on, and my grandmother had no idea. She didn't know. She didn't. So I know I needed her to be on my team, right? I know I needed to build my team. So one day I wrote every piece of candy we had. I wrote everything out, doubled the margin for everything. I made a real nice sign, and I rolled it up. So we had some kids come in, because normally I would meet them outside before they come to the door. So this kid comes knocking on the door. And my grandmother goes, "Oh, Mike's not feeling well. He's not coming outside." Because I played sick, and she was walking by me, and I handed her a piece of paper, which was a sign she didn't know. And she says, "No, I'm not here." The kid said, "I'm not here to see Mike. I'm here to buy some candy." And my grandmother looked at him like he's speaking a different language, like, "Buy candy?" I said, "Grandma, look at the sign." So she sees the sign, and she sees the kid that comes to buy the candy, so she realized we have something. But that was my first accidental entrepreneurial endeavor. But that candy company did so well that we ended up moving the following year. But in 2 years, my grandmother, she ended up leaving her job, and all she did was sell candy. She did that until 2005 when she passed away. But that's how I learned entrepreneurship. So it was one of those things where I just did it. When a lot of people love the brand Stinky Cakes that my wife and I created, and the reason people love Stinky Cakes, and I'll give you my secret, the reason people love Stinky Cakes is because that kid entrepreneur runs that company. So everyone in this room has an inner kid in them. Like, I don't market to adults, I market to the inner kid. So if you heard my radio ads, I had a little kid talking for 2 reasons. One, I'm talking to the little kid inside that wants to get out, and 2, I'm talking to your kids. Because I was teaching someone about, I was coaching someone about how to run radio ads last week, and this story came to mind. When I first launched my company, and we paid way too much money for radio ads. It was crazy. Like when we started, we had no money. Like, we really had no money. So we built up to be able to buy radio ads, and I just blew the whole budget. But I did it wrong. So I ended up meeting my mentor, who was John Sortino, the founder of Vermont Teddy Bear. Like, I'm big on meeting people. Like, I'll sit and meet and talk, and people are people. You could have $1 or you could have $1 billion. It doesn't matter to me, because everyone has a story. You can learn from everyone. That's my whole thing. But I go out to meet John, and John says to me, "So, you love my product?" And I was blown away that this guy who I looked up to all my life was telling me he loved something I created. But he told me something. He said, "Mike, with your radio ads, you're doing it all wrong. Yeah, you're reaching a whole bunch of people at all times of the night, but really you think that guy at 3 in the morning who's driving his 18-wheeler really cares about buying some diapers?" And I go, "No." So when should I advertise, John? He says, "Well, you want to do it during the morning drive." I said, "But John, people are riding to work and they're trying to..." "Mike, you want to do it during the morning drive." And I go, "Okay." So I come back, I say, "All right, babe, we got to undo our whole strategy. We just got to put our radio ads during this time." So what ended up happening was we ran the ad during the morning drive. We had the little kid talking, and we started getting sales, right? It normally takes 3 times for someone to hear something before they even pay attention to it. But what was happening was, in the morning, even if the parents were driving their kids off to school, they're not really listening, but they're hearing it subconsciously. The kids getting excited because they hear a kid on the radio. They wasn't expecting that. And then, so now they go, Mom, Auntie's having a baby. We should get her a Stinky Cake." And Mom's like, "Oh, yeah, what's a Stinky Cake," right? after school, same ad ran. Now Stinky Cakes go on the air. Mom hears it. She remember the kid says, "Aunt, you get it." She goes back to work or back home and buys a Stinky Cake, right? So when you like marketing, branding, all this other cool stuff is really like my approach to it is really just playing with adults, but the kid version. So once you get people smiling and laughing and having a good time, like it's about fun. And once you tap into that, you always win. 9 times out of 10 you'll win. So when we started delivering all these cakes, like I wasn't getting the response from people I want. They loved the cake, but I was the delivery guy. So I'm this big, thick, African American guy walking in with some diapers. People were freaked out. So I said, I have to change this. I have to change. Because it's all about love and fun for me, right? So I went home and I talked to my wife. And really, the genius behind the whole thing is my wife. If I could get her to smile and nod, I know I win. So I said, "Hey, I have to create like Mr. Stinky Cakes." Like, what the heck's Mr. Stinky? Oh, okay, is this guy? He's like a baker. He has this big old hat and he's pink and blue and this whatever. And when he delivers, he says, "Someone got a Stinky Cake." He makes it an event. And she goes, "That's kind of crazy, but it might work." So I started delivering that way. And what ended up happening was people got so excited about, once again, back to playing with the kid. People got so excited about Mr. Stinky Cakes. So when they were like, I would go in the baby shower, and I even didn't realize people hate baby showers because they still like this. So I would walk in, and Mr. Stinky Cakes was coming, and people were jumping up, hugging me, giving me kisses on the cheek, and I was like, well, okay, yeah, I can do this. But I created an experience. So I tried to make it along the way, every part of Stinky Cakes was an experience. Someone was talking, and this was social media wasn't what it is today, and I wish it was then now. But people started sharing pictures on Facebook. People started tweeting on Twitter. People started talking about it. So it was at this point where I could pull off the radio. Like I didn't even have to put that much money in radio anymore because people were like, "Yeah, I know Stinky Cakes." Like and it became amazing, and that's because I create experiences. Like everything you do, you create an experience. Like I can't stress that enough because a lot of people think branding is slapping a logo on something, having a tagline, or telling people what your product is. That's not what branding is. Branding is what people say your product is or your service is. So you could have the greatest product or service ever, but if people think that it's subpar, or people think that they're not getting enough value from it, that's what they're gonna tell their people. They say, yeah, she does taxes really good, but her office smells, right? So they'll be like, that's just the lady with the smelly office. That's your brand. You don't even know it, right? So people tell you what your brand are. Now the good news is you control that. You control that. And if another key to it is just, that's me. That's you. The key to it is stopping and listening, and I could go on forever. But that's what it is. But real quick, I just have to take a selfie with everyone. So I'm addicted to this whole selfie thing, and I just want to do that. Get to my camera.
We do like the Oscars one.
Yeah. Hopefully. Cool, right? So I think I got almost everyone in here. 3, 2, 1. Bam. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. All right.
What's your Facebook address? Are you going to post that?
Say it again?
Are you going to post that on Facebook?
Yeah, everything. Facebook, Twitter is Mr. Stinky Cakes.
Of course it is.
I love what you said about staying a kid, because I actually keep a photo of my 8-year-old self on my desk at home in my home office, and I look at it all the time, and I kind of trickle back to who that person was and how it makes sense that I became an entrepreneur too. So I'm going to do the same thing today. My name is Alyssa Brigette. I work for a consulting firm called Raising Change. And for me, I really am not supposed to be here at all, because I was getting a theater degree before I ended up in all this, so I was supposed to be Barbara Streisand. And that just didn't work out, so I went into fundraising. So those are my two worlds. But my story is a little unique. I grew up about an hour away from here, and I told my parents one day that I got an internship with a theater company in Northampton, Massachusetts, and my happy conservative folks were like, yeah, you're not you're not going to do that. And I came home a week later to all my childhood belongings on the front lawn and boxes. And so my boyfriend at the time helped load up the pickup truck, and we drove out to Northampton. I found an apartment the next morning. I was really lucky. And I threw myself into being really fierce about redefining Alyssa and who she was going to be in this new situation, because I didn't really have my family anymore in that way, because clearly the theater is the circus to people in Sturbridge. so that kind of didn't really work out. And so for me, when I landed in Northampton and started this new journey, I got really, really intense about being a member of the community. And I had a full-time job as a barista at Starbucks on Main Street. I had another 25 hours every week bartending at the Hotel Northampton. I had a full-time internship that took up Friday afternoons and all day Saturday. And I was going to school full-time at Westfield State College, 4 courses, all on campus in the theater department, which means you're eating pizza and painting sets until 2 a.m. So I was a little intense in what I was trying to accomplish, and in all that and trying to find myself. This internship led to an amazing opportunity where I got to go to Belgrade, Serbia in 2010, October of 2010, for the entire month and tour an international production, of which I was on the team to do the administrative aspects of, as well as the fundraising, as well as the grant writing, the whole shebang, and I was teaching at HCC. So I clearly am not an overachiever in any capacity. And so as time went on and I did this internship and I got to go to Serbia and I came back and I just remember all the listening that I did when I was in Belgrade. And I got to witness women artists' stories, and I got to hear about what theater meant to them, which I don't know if you all know this, but theater is very respected in Europe in a way that it isn't in the States. And so it was a very intense experience for me to come back and kind of be like, wow, I had felt not even celebrity, but it was this feeling of just really fullness of being a human being. And the human experience was so appreciated. And when I came back, I was like, goodness gracious, I need to do this work. I need to stay in the theater. And if I have to steam milk at 4 a.m. for the rest of my life, damn it, I'm going to do it. And so I threw myself into appreciating storytelling in my job as a barista and a bartender in a way that I never had before. And oh my gosh, the stories that I heard from people around here and the lives that they have and the experiences that I never knew, because every day I was like, $3.95, thank you so much, have a good one. Tall soy latte? Like, and I was so overwhelmed by I would hear stories. I had a guy who came in who his wife and he had been trying for 10 years to have a child, and she kept having miscarriages, and he opened up to me because I finally started to see him as more than the transaction. It was really, really amazing what happened for me in a coffee shop job. And so one thing led to another, and this woman who came in every day, Kathy LeMay, who I work with at Raising Change, I saw her start to listen, and I saw her start to kind of witness and watch my life and get interested in my story. And I was so blessed because I'd heard things about the work that Raising Change did, and I was like, oh my gosh, you hang out with Eve Ensler. Why am I not going to work for you? And I really wanted to be a part of it, and Kathy came in and offered me, at one point, conversation about what I wanted to do and the direction I wanted to take. And I realized that occupying that space in our community is so incredibly important, to be able to slow down and kind of look at our service industry people and our administrative associates and all these kind of jobs that really do keep us going, and listen to them and take the time to do that deeply and profoundly. And Kathy did that for me. And a couple months later came in and said, so you're interviewing with my director of operations next week, I'm going to hire you. And I was like, okay. I'm like, did you realize I just cleaned the grease traps? So nail beds aren't smelling that great right now. But she still kept at me. And I ended up working for her 3 years ago as an executive assistant. Within the first year of being there, I became the public relations consultant for the entire firm. And now I'm happy to stand up in front of you, and I am the director of all programs, and I help support our entire client base, which is incredibly extensive. So going through the transition of a 19-year-old girl who pulls in her driveway coming home from a 12-hour waitressing shift and seeing your teddy bears in cardboard boxes, to waking up every morning and seeing emails from Deepak Chopra, the O Magazine, Eve Ensler, Abigail Disney, and these really profound social justice makers. It sometimes doesn't feel like it's my life. But I think that what happened was along the journey, I had people who took the time to listen, and so now I do that for my clients and my prospective clients. And the money follows it. I really, really, really believe that the money follows it. I never am concerned that we're not going to keep our wheels turning or have enough cash flow or really grow a business when you want to take a new direction in development, because I've taken the time to slow down and listen in the same way that Kathy listened to me to bring me to this work. And so I'll just give you a quick little example of what one of the things that I love about my job is I get people all the time who email me and say, oh my gosh, we need fundraising support and fundraising help, and I book all these little 30-minute calls throughout the week, and I pick up the phone, and I never pick up the phone, and I never ever say, hi, this is Alyssa Brigette, the Director of Programs with Raising Change, calling to inquire about fundraising training today. How can I support you? Like, that just doesn't happen for me. I pick up the phone, I go, what's up, Marcia? How you doing? How's it in Arizona? What's the weather like? Because I see them as a human being, and I see them as part of something bigger by wanting to harvest my business. It's more about wanting to make an investment, I think, in a partnership and an opportunity. And that's why being a kid resonates so much for me, because as a kid, all I wanted to do was listen to people and watch people. And yes, it got a little creepy because I would mimic the woman in front of me in the grocery store line. My mom used to laugh, and she was like, that's why you're so empathetic. She's like, because you watch the woman in the grocery store line in front of me and go, why are you frowning so much today? But I did. I would do a lot of that stuff. And so, yeah, so that for me is what being an entrepreneur is really about. It's about profoundly, deeply, intensely, relaxed jaw, gently parted lips, breathing in and out other people as they come into your realm and want to be a part of the work that you're doing. And I still do actor training, and I still try to do performance when I'm not in like Vancouver, Monterrey, Mexico, Berlin, Germany, because we get to travel and it's really amazing. And I took a fall acting class in the Pioneer Valley this past fall. And I always forget how amazing it is to look and be looked at. And it's an exercise that actors do a lot, is we just take the time to breathe in and out and stand in silent space and craft that moment. And it has translated so well to how I do business now. And it makes so much sense. Kathy and I at Raising Change are launching a new platform called Putting Humanity at the Forefront as the driver for business success. Because to me, it's about that more than business ethics. Because I'm sorry, like Business 101, take a back seat. Because it really is about the human experience and how we're going to transition and form the small businesses that, come as a collective over time and really make our economy healthy and happy. And I think the arts community is a huge part of that too. And so part of being an entrepreneur for me is also always investing in all the different titles we can have. Because I'm an artist and an entrepreneur and an activist and all these different things. And it just makes for a much more exciting area to live in. So my 2 little nuggets of wisdom, I guess, for you all today is really take the time to listen and breathe through the people that come into your circles. It's a great gift to be an entrepreneur. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to be a self-starter, but you meet so many people you wouldn't meet if you were in a very structured environment, and you get to take your own direction with it. And so that's one of the things I do, is I always try to really listen intently and also invest in story. And so those 2 things for me are kind of what has made both a successful business, and I know it sounds super hokey and kind of antiquated, but I do have a life in this work. I'm not just making a living and getting a paycheck. So, am I good on time?
You're good on time.
All right, thank you so much.
And next up is Juli Thibault.
I love how you're saying my name, by the way. It makes me feel like a real rock star.
My son told me not to do that. He was like, you're not at boxing.
I invite you everywhere I go into Juli Thibault. So this was a wonderful segue, actually, talking about stories and really the humanity of people and in business, because that's really kind of what I'm here to talk about today. I'm here to really talk about how sharing stories, especially with those that are different than us, can really create powerful and meaningful connections. So I think it's safe to say that the only constant in today's environment is change, right? So regardless of our industry, what we do, what our passion is, it seems year after year there's more and more competition. And so in order for us to really last in whatever we're doing and to thrive and to really be successful, we really need to incorporate a lot of collaboration and innovation. And we can't just do that by ourselves, right? And so we don't need census data to tell us that the demographics of our country is changing, right? We can see it in all aspects of our community and everywhere we go. So I'm going to make a little bit of a jump here, but hopefully at the end you won't really see it's a jump. Would you disagree that any of us as individuals are different? So if you have two people in a room, you have diversity, right? And I know when we hear the word diversity, some of us go to, oh, it's affirmative action training, oh, it's compliance, oh, it's about race, it's about sexual orientation. But it's so much more than that, right? It's about communication. It's about what we value. It's about our education. Do we have a bunch of degrees we're proud of, or did we go and travel and explore the world and bring those experiences into who we are? Are we an entrepreneur? Do we have an innovative spirit that drives us? Or are we more traditional, corporate, top-down? Is that really what we go off of? There's so many of these pieces that make us who we are, that are our fabric, and that's our story. And the truth of the matter is nearly 85% of who we are, you can't see. So right now you see Juli walk into the room, you really have about 10 or 15% of who I actually am. The rest is in here. And to get that out, it takes more than just a hello or a goodbye, right? It takes a more deep connection. So while we all share this commonality of everything that's in us, we also share something else. We also share barriers. Barriers are why we don't share our story with each other, right? It could be out of fear. We could be ashamed of our story. We might just want to push it aside, pretend it hasn't happened, and kind of go onward, forward. Whatever the reason for us not sharing these powerful stories, what happens is a piece of us is always hidden. And how can we be great every day if parts of ourselves are not the stage, whatever your stage may be? And so that's a commonality that we all share. So if we're not bringing our best to the table, how are other people around us bringing their best, right? Because you can sense that. You can sense when you're showing up, but you're not really there, and that does affect folks around us. So how can we get so we're operating at our fullest potential all the time? One way we can do it, and I'm going to say a 4-letter word here, is we can put aside our biases, right? We all have them. It's really natural. Our brain, naturally, we have these biases. It doesn't make us bad people at all, right? And so going back to the cavewoman days, it was natural for our brains to have to think quick. There was a lot of danger. Something was different or that we didn't realize, we would scan, quickly categorize, put it in the box. Okay, when I see it again, I know that's danger, I'm going to stay away. Now, while we've advanced a lot since then, our brains are still wired the same, right? So we go somewhere and we see either something or people that are different than us. Unconsciously, we're categorizing them in this little social box. And then once they're in the box, there's all those assumptions about those people or things that are different than us that is attached. And before you know it, I'm walking into a room and I see, you guys aren't really like me, and I'm just going to kind of keep on walking. And then I don't ever get to know them. So one, unless anyone in this room knows how to rewire a brain for us to stop doing this, we need to think differently, and what we need to do is just be aware. It can be really that simple, right? I was reading the stat that said how much information is thrown on us each day. So this is another reason why we really need our brain to do those quick scans. Each day, we are all exposed to 172 newspapers packed of information. So that's a lot. And it also said each newspaper was 85 pages long. So I don't know if this is like the encyclopedia newspaper, but that's a lot of stuff, and that's a lot for us to go through and remember. And if we did it all consciously, we'd be exhausted and we wouldn't be able to do anything. So I want to share, and so this is all about sharing stories, right? Connecting with people that we wouldn't think we would connect with, and not on a conscious basis because we're bad people, but on a subconscious basis. And so we lose a lot of opportunities that we might have. So with being true to what I'm saying, I'm going to share my story with you folks. So everyone has a thought of me in their mind, whether you know me or not. You have some sort of preconceived story already filled out for me of what my life has been. So I want you to keep that story that you've already assigned to me in your mind while I tell you my story. And again, you're not bad people, but I also don't want to know what the story is that you've already done. Okay. Some things are best left unsaid. So growing up, we grew up with not a lot of money, right? In 5th grade, my mom left my abusive father. She realized there were certain things that we were seeing that we just should not see. So being a very brave woman, she left and we moved. And going into 6th grade, I went into new school. And so being now a single mother, she had to work 2 jobs 7 days a week to provide for the basics. And so I was on the playground one day, again 6th grade, new school, and I noticed these little groups of kids kind of like looking at me and pointing and laughing. And it happened often, and it was because my clothes didn't fit me. You know, my pants were too high. It wasn't crop season either. They were legit high waters. And in that moment, I just felt so awful. And I'm sure we've all had a moment like that. And I felt awful, and I didn't just feel awful for me being made fun of. I felt awful because my mom knew this was happening, right? You know, she knew that this was happening, and that she couldn't do anything about it at the time, right? The necessities are food, heat, water, these things, not clothes. And in the morning when I would get dressed and I would be putting on these things that didn't fit me, I'd go to her room and she'd say, "Well, Julie, how about you wear this necklace? Or how about you wear this shirt of mine to try to make me feel better, to try to, you know, make it okay." And so I decided then in 6th grade, I knew I was different. I knew I was in a different social economic class. While I didn't say that then, because that would have been quite profound. I knew that I knew we didn't have money, and I knew these kids didn't ever have to worry about it. I knew they didn't hear, you know, their parents or mom or dad talking about it. And so I vowed to myself right then and there, I will not let anyone make me feel like that again. So I was going to get a job and make a lot of money. And that was it. I didn't think about my passions, who I was going to be, if I was going to get married or have kids. I didn't think of any of that. I thought I need to have money so that way I will never be that person in a room that's being made fun of. And that way I can get my mom and my sister everything that they should and have deserved. So my story owned me. So I started making decisions based on that class thing, that money thing, not what was important to me or my passions, but I let it own me. And therefore, and I was ashamed of it, by the way. So this is being recorded, and here's my story in front of a lot of folks I don't know. I was ashamed of my story. I didn't want people to know. I always had to be the best dressed, which I won in high school, by the way. But I had to be on, and I had to be the best, and that kind of ruled me to the point where I wasn't really living up to my full potential, right? I was kind of acting, in a sense. Not the good kind of acting. And I wasn't happy. And so when we're living through life with our stories that we're not sharing with others because of fear, because of shame, we're not bringing our fullest selves. And so I don't know if that's the story you guys pictured for me. And really, this is really kind of what I want to really drive home is the next time we meet someone new
totally finish your thought.
The next time we meet someone new or different, let's be aware how we react. Let's be aware about how we may be categorizing them. And let's give them the opportunity to share their story. Because having other folks share their story will empower us. And then when we share our story, we all become unstoppable.
You're so awesome, right? I don't have to time myself because I can talk for 20 minutes if I want to. I'm kidding. We're right on time too, so I'm going to get you guys on time. I guess I just wanted to wrap up talking just a little bit about, Lioness and what this is and why we're here and what we're trying to do. So we started Lioness in August 2011. We did a soft launch. And the reason that happened is I was working with a variety of female entrepreneurs through the Lioness Group, which was a really small PR firm that I had started working with entrepreneurs. It was just me. If I had a large load, I had my news buddies kind of help me out and help me bang out the work. And we started sharing best practices and tips, and I realized that all of this information wasn't in one place. And I say that because I don't think a lot of people, or maybe women, I don't know if you've noticed this, there is no mainstream entrepreneur magazine for women. There isn't. Think of all of your favorite entrepreneur magazines. They are my favorite too. I love them. I think it was Mike earlier threw some names out. Inc., Fast Company. I love them. And they openly admit that more than 60% of their readers are males. So first of all, what we are attempting to do at Lioness has never been done. Are there publications for women in business? Yes. If you are a female professional who works at a bank, if you are a woman who is paving the way in a nonprofit, you can find a women in business publication that will give you career advice, tips, list some events for you. But if you are a female entrepreneur, there is no magazine that is solely dedicated to catering news to you. And that was like, for me, that was profound at the time, because I was like, I never noticed that. I go to Barnes & Noble and I pick up what's there and what's popular. And I never realized for myself, as I was building a business, that, wow, there wasn't something just for me. And so I created this really ugly mock cover that I thought looked good at the time. And I sent it to some female entrepreneurs that I knew. And I said, is this something that you would read? And a few of them said yes. But some of them also said that they would love to write for it. And 3 months later, because once I have an idea, I have to do it right away before it goes to Mychal Connolly. God might give it to him. So I act on it right away. And so we launched it and we did a soft launch. And since then, we've been read by more than 3,000 people, which is huge for me. I don't have a business partner. I didn't come up with this with anybody else. It was just myself. And I reached out to some really cool people who took pity on me because I'm a startup and I'm poor and I eat a lot of ramen noodles. And people like Al, who I could go by his office to get something to eat if I'm they take pity.
Are good for it.
See, thank you. And so that's how we've been kind of able to do this. It's been remarkable because I'll give you an example. So we were being published on issue.com. And though we've been read by 3,000 people, that's total since we launched. We know that within the first 20 to 25 days after we publish an issue, we average about 525 readers. And then the numbers go up, right? Because somebody shares an article, you tell a friend, they come back, they check it out, they check out the back issues. We launched our website last week, which was huge for us. And so far, when I checked, I think that was on Thursday, we already had 625 readers. That's huge. We did that in a week, what we normally do in a month. So it shows you that people want the content. Women want it. Through the small surveying we've been able to do, about 75% of our readers are women. There are some guys who still come and check it out, and that's cool. But people are reading it, and so that was important to us. And so because we're embarking on this new journey, it's a lot of figuring it out as you go. And so we've been turning to a lot of resources and participating in accelerator programs to grow. And in doing that research, I just wanted to share a little bit with you of some of the information we've been getting. So I don't know if you're familiar with the National Women's Business Council, but they're advisors to the White House and the SBA, and they do tremendous work with women. And in their 2013 report, they listed 4 key areas that really needed to be focused on in 2014 for women. The first one was access to capital. Women are underexposed and underfunded. It's not easy for us to get capital to really launch our companies or to grow them. And a paper came out a couple months ago, which I had to write down for you guys because totally Google it. It was very eye-opening to me. So we know that of all of the firms in the country who receive venture capital funding, only about 7% of them are actually owned by women, right? So we're not getting the money when we go to, don't believe Shark Tank, when we go there and we're pitching, we're not really getting the money. And so these 3 awesome women, Allison Brooks, Laura Hong, and Sarah Kearney, said, why is that? And so they went and they did some research and they wrote this paper called Investors Prefer Entrepreneurial Ventures Pitched by Attractive Men. And they gave a group of guys and women the same exact company to pitch. And more than 60% of the guys got the funding and the women didn't. That is amazing. You're saying the same business using the same language, and they're saying no to you and yes to a guy. Now, don't forget they use the word attractive. So if Pee Wee Herman went in, he wouldn't get it. If Brad Pitt went in, he was more likely to get the cash. Right? No disrespect to Pee Wee Herman. I loved him growing up. But I just want to give you a visual. And so that was really telling. And the NWBC feels like you need to do some work towards that, which totally check out the report because they also list strategies. The second key finding was that women didn't have access to markets. So especially if you were a woman who you were going into a male-dominated field, if you wanted to be a part of a corporate supply chain, or you wanted to get more government contracts, right? It was hard for you to get in, to break into that, to get the jobs and the gigs that your company needed to sustain itself. So they also said there needs to be some work done there. The third one was job growth and creation. We know that entrepreneurs are vital to our economy, right? Because as we launch startups and you scale up, the first thing that you're doing is you're hiring people. So you're impacting your immediate local economy and then nationally because you're giving people jobs, they're paying taxes. It's being paid forward and hopefully coming back into your community. It's not easy for a woman to do that. So again, they were saying there needs to be more programs focused on women-based accelerator programs and women-themed incubators so that these women have a place to go to thrive and grow. I actually just completed the Valley Venture Mentors program, and though it's not specifically for women, I found tremendous help there in terms of growing Lioness. And it was a 6-month program. I went in with my 8 goals, and I will say that I left accomplishing 7 of the 8. So it's a worthwhile program, and it gives you opportunities to bounce your ideas off of professionals and experts, and they lead you and they guide you. The fourth one, which is really, really important to me, is data collection, okay? Because there are some statistical, there is some statistical information available on female entrepreneurs, but not a lot. Right, because we're rapidly on the rise now, so it's not something that has been tracked for a long period of time. And the reason that is important to Lioness is because, like I said, if we're breaking ground and we're launching, a leading digital magazine for female entrepreneurs, and it's never existed before, it's hard for me to get information on what you guys like, what you need. And so creating events like 5 and having dialogue, and yeah, I might bother you with a survey question. It gives me the feedback that I need to know what I need to do, because I can't look at an ink and say, well, that worked for them. Well, only 40% of women are reading you. So that is not telling me how you're reaching them. So the work that I think that we're doing, I'm proud of it. I think it's really important. I'm excited to bring it to the Pioneer Valley and presenting opportunities for women to get together to discuss entrepreneurship and innovation and how we can not only build up the Pioneer Valley, but the world, right? I believe in world takeover dominator. My mom was telling me to dust. I'm like, I'm gonna find a husband. Somebody has to be home dusting while I'm out like taking over the world, right? So I just want to thank all of you guys for coming here today. Please, please, please give us your feedback. Anything that I could do to make it better. Our next one is going to be June 13th in Holyoke over at the Innovation Center. So we're really, really excited to keep it moving and keep it going and growing. Again, Julie, thank you to the Women's Fund for having us. Thank you to YPS and NAPE and the Creative Strategy Agency and Swanson Meetings and Event Planning, because I cannot plan an event for my life. I can come up with the idea, but Diane was awesome in helping me kind of put this all together and keep it in one seamless package. And last but not least, to Claudine at the Magic Spoon, you always feed us so well. So thank you, and have a lovely day.